In this video, I want to talk about the experience of a new player. What is it like playing Rise of Kingdoms? For this video to work though, I'd like you to go back in time to a time when a advertising campaign had just been launched from Rise of Kingdoms, and the campaign was for the Egyptian or the new Egyptian civilization. Let's imagine that you've seen that advert and you've clicked on it and you've downloaded Rise of Kingdoms. So, unbeknownst to you though, you may have already massively ruined your account. The fact that you've just downloaded it and started playing, maybe if you were lucky a good thing, maybe if you're unlucky a bad thing. Let's have a look what might have happened. So, my account has been in this kingdom for about 1 day, 5 hours and 40 minutes. So, because I waited for a new kingdom and I started my account right at the start of a new kingdom. But let's imagine you made your account 1 day and 8 hours ago, before this kingdom even existed. That means you would have dropped right into the end of 3747. Which maybe you're saying, well, it's only 1 day and 8 hours, that's not a lot. But unfortunately, the way Rise of Kingdoms works, the penalty for being behind is multiplied, because there are 4 troop queues, 2 building queues, and 1 research queue. That means that, in fact, you're more like 230 hours behind, because it multiplies. Obviously, I'm presuming for the video that people play 24 hours a day or keep their queues going 24 hours a day, but let's just presume for this video that they do. But unfortunately, that's not your only problem, because you've landed into one of the top 2 kingdoms. That means the youngest kingdom here has in fact got an even bigger advantage over you. They were, when you made your account, they were 4 days old. And that 4 days times by 7 means that they are 28 days worth of speed ups ahead of you. I mean, it's catastrophic. It's huge. The game has ways to and strategies to help new players or people that go into the later kingdoms, but you don't know about that. You're just a new player. And of course, you saw that advert for Egypt. So let's go and see what you might have done. Perhaps you picked Egypt. Perhaps you're from Egypt and it just made sense to you. Why wouldn't you pick the kingdom you're from? So let's have a look. You've picked Egypt. Where is it? There it is. A bit of archer attack. Rallied army damage. Probably meant nothing to you. And building and research. Well, that's useful in this type of game. Of course. And you get Imhotep. I wonder what he's like. Usually, the newer commanders in this type of game, there's a power creep. They get slowly better and better. But let's have a little look at Imhotep. What have you ended up with? This is, remember, your new experience. Everyone else is out there fighting and you know, every time they hit, big numbers appear. But that doesn't happen for you. You get this obscure debuff that's really only useful in very, very narrow stages. But you push on and you get him up to level 60. And then you expertise him, and then suddenly, surprise, unfortunately, you're using him as your main commander, but part of his expertise doesn't work if he's not a secondary commander, which means you only had to get him to level 30 and open up his 4th skill, and that's all you needed to do. You're not meant to use him as a main commander, but how could you possibly know this? Why wouldn't you give up? Why wouldn't you be upset? Of course, let's say you've just started your account now, like I just started in this kingdom. You are 1 day and 7 hours behind me and 372,000 power behind me. Well, goodness, That's an awful lot. Remember, I'm free to play and you're free to play. It would be a huge amount to try and close that gap, almost impossible. Then let's say you go into rankings. Really, wow, 4 million power, 2 million power. And maybe you'll get the idea that, well, this game's just pay to play. There's no way I can possibly compete with that. Little do you know that some of these players around this area, they're just free to play jumper accounts, and you could be exactly like them. But how could you possibly know this? And would taking away the jumper strategy help these new players? I don't think so. All you would happen is the Logic Bank would make a video, and I'd call it my starter strategy. And in that video, I would stress that the best thing for your project would be to start your brand new accounts 5 minutes into the opening of the first kingdom in a region. And if you did, your account would be 5 days and 7 hours old, or your whole project's accounts would be 5 days and 7 hours old, meaning you would have 4 days, 4 times 28 days worth of speed ups advantage. I know I'm presuming people play 24 hours a day or keep their queues going for 24 hours a day, but this advantage multiplies by 7. And that's how I say, that's a video I'd be making. It'd be the starter strategy, and all the projects that watch that video would say, well, we need to make our kingdom, we need to make our project, and suddenly there'd be a massive bundle in the first kingdom of every region because of the advantage you would gain. Because the jumper strategy's gone, you're not going to spread out in the same way. I really hope that they don't ever get rid of the jumper strategy, because it does spread the power. There is a problem though. If we go a few kingdoms down, that statistically the first kingdom is more likely to be the strongest. Look, there's 3 in a row where the advantage of being the first kingdom carried over and they became the gold star. It's not always the case. You get very large jump groups. I know there's one aiming at 3777, and they are going to be one of the later kingdoms. So I wouldn't personally do that if I was doing a large project, but it's more than possible to have the weight and whales to make that work. Now, what could we do for the new players without advantaging the jumpers? And we can't really not advantage those that play more because of the way the game works. If you grind more, you do better, but most people would accept that. I think what you would have to do, and I doubt they would do this, but one of the first events, take the Rise of Kingdoms events, it could be dynamic. Let's say we block people from doing the Rise of Kingdoms event until they are level 8. At level 8, we are all on the same footing because the jumpers would not be able to access this until they had jumped. Let's then say the rewards are then smart rewards. They are dynamic. So let's take this 1 hour speed up. For the kingdom that is the first in the region, this reward would be 5 hours. But let's say somebody was a jumper and created their account on a kingdom 5 kingdoms before that kingdom was opened. When they jump and get to level 8, this would then be dynamic. It knows you were a jumper, and it would reduce this reward from 5 hours down to 1 hour to try and correct your advantage. The new player in that kingdom wouldn't know that they're getting 5 hours more than the jumper, and they would have some way of catching up. And again, let's say that kingdom takes 25 hours to spawn before the next kingdom. So that kingdom, the new player that got there at 5 minutes sees 5 hours. The new player that got there at 24 hours into that kingdom, 6 hours. So it is dynamic and smart. I know this is complicated and the algorithm behind it would be fantastically complicated, but you could in the same way that airline tickets, or in the same way that Mario Kart gives better rewards to the person in last as opposed to the person in first. There would be a way of doing it, and perhaps this event could be in some way that the person in the first kingdom that did a maximum jump of 9 days would get 1 hour. The person in the last kingdom that didn't make a jump or was just brand new, the last person literally to join the region, would see 14 hours here. I know that seems a massive difference for just one reward, and that would scale out, but remember, they're days and days and days behind that person that made a jumper and landed in the first kingdom. An algorithm could be produced that makes the rewards of this event dynamic, and perhaps that could be a way of moving away from the jumper. Unfortunately, though, they would also have to move away from the sleeper. But the way I think they could possibly do that is that a sleeper is definitely going to betray a kingdom and leave. So perhaps there should be an event, and the event says, will you commit to this kingdom or commit to stay here for 100 days? And if you say yes, you get a reward. That reward, though, changes all the time. So the sleeper wouldn't be able to collect that, or the person who knows they're going to migrate away, or the person that's worried about civil war wouldn't collect it. But the person that says, I'm going to stay in this kingdom, I'm going to commit for the 100 days and not use my 10-day migration window to create the sleeper advantage, and then they could perhaps have a reward for committing to the kingdom. So an idea there for 2 new events that could solve some of the problems in the early game for new players and reduce the effectiveness of the jumper and the sleeper to help the experience of new players. The advantages would still be there. There would still be double collecting the altars. That would be hard to deal with, but there's an idea. So hope you enjoyed this video, a bit of an unusual one, and I hope you're glad to see I'm back making an account. Thanks for watching.